Hello, fellow humans. Is it okay to be angry with capitalism? Is capitalism good? Both these questions operate on certain assumptions, perceptions, and data. Both these questions imply either the necessity for change or the continuation of business as usual. Which side is right? This one, of course. There are several ways to define capitalism. I will not discuss definitions, but rather explain why capitalism is failing humans through the lens of 5 apparently random notions. The needs of humans to live a healthy and decent life, the idea of progress, the concept of money, the relation to the environment, and the tools humans use to forge a society. I do not mean just hammers, sickles, and smartphones, but all means used by humans to achieve their goals. In an earlier video, I talked about how needs can be classified, how wealth is used for social status, what humans do to satisfy their needs. But the notion of need can be quite subjective. What is the need of a person living in squalor versus the need of a person who changes their smartphone every year? Your need for a healthy, decent life may not be exactly my need. Where do we draw the line? Do we put bread, iPhones, Teslas, a third property on the same pyramid of needs for all humans? Many children would understand the following definition. Needs are things that we require to survive and stay healthy, while wants are things that we desire but can live without. An ice cream cone is therefore and will always be a want, a desire. An iPhone or a Tesla is just like ice cream. We often project desires into needs. We often think that what we desire is a must-have need to survive. We are wrong when we think that. And now here's how capitalism fails to meet human needs. Capitalism has used violence, both literal and figurative violence, to pervert the idea of needs with advertising, with fear of missing out, with status anxiety, with manipulating our attention span. All of this so we can think we need everything that capitalism has to sell. The bullshit never stops. Every day is more ridiculous, more aggressive, more plastic, more stupid things and asinine services. And this is the consequence. Humans as a society have breached 6 of 9 planetary boundaries. Earth is now well outside the safe operating space for humanity. We are congratulating ourselves for great sales results while deep in our own grave. Look at the biospheral integrity limit. It is 10 extinctions per million species years. The current value is more than 100. Of an estimated 8 million plant and animal species, around 1 million are threatened with extinction, and over 10% of genetic diversity of plants and animals may have been lost over the past 150 years. While there have been mass extinctions in the past, what we experience now is anthropogenic, meaning caused by humans desperate to satisfy their deluded needs. Just to be clear, the burden of guilt lies with rich humans living in what is known as the global north. And this is just one of the 6 Earth limits we have breached. How many of you think we do not need bees, trees, healthy soil, and fish to live? If we look at these definitions of progress, we may be tempted to conflate and confuse personal progress with social progress. If I get wiser, that is maybe my personal progress. If society gets richer and healthier, that is social progress. Supporters of capitalism claim that we live in the best of times, that humans have never been better, that we made enormous progress in the past 200 years, and mind-blowing progress since this guy launched this tiny object on the market. One major claim of capitalism is that it has lifted hundreds of millions of humans out of poverty. Well, it has not. That is a flat-out lie. It has to do with how poverty is defined, which, as of 2022, was an income of $2.50 per day in terms of purchasing power parity to be above the extreme poverty line. If we look at this historical chart for the share of population living in extreme poverty, it appears that fewer and fewer humans live in extreme poverty. The way PPP is calculated is misleading. PPP is basically the ratio of the price of a basket of goods at one location divided by the price of the basket of goods at the different location. But PPP does not say anything about what humans actually need to live. If we consider proper nutrition, housing, healthcare, then an ethical poverty line would be somewhere at $8 per day. When we consider EPL, we find that 1 billion people have been added to poverty since 1980. We have more poor people today than 40 years ago. More than 40% of humans cannot afford nutritious food. 50% do not have safely managed sanitation facilities. 70% do not have necessary health care. How about global income inequality? Do we see any visible progress in the past 200 years for the bottom 50% of humans, shown here in the blue line? Let that sink in. But we do have progress for this bunch of happy humans. Understanding progress is not just about interpreting data or debating who has the better facts. It is also a question of seeing how humans really live around the world and empathizing with their suffering. It is also a question of introspection. It may appear that I live better in my own bubble, but the world around me is on fire and crumbling. More and more humans struggle to make ends meet. The failure of capitalism to provide progress and prosperity for all humans is now obvious. We were very upset when the 2008 financial crisis wiped out the life savings of millions of humans. We are upset now when housing is becoming less and less affordable, when inflation has hit everything we need and desire, when our wages cannot keep up with the cost of living. Why is money such a problem? Why some humans thought that Bitcoin can save us? Money is supposed to serve a simple purpose, regardless of who creates it, which is to allow us to exchange it on the market for goods and services that we need and desire. Yes, money is also a unit of account. It indicates the value of things over time. A store of value, you can use it in the future or over a long distance. A standard for credit, you can use it to enter a promise with somebody that has a resolution in the future. This is known as debt. Money can have several properties that are all meant to serve one purpose: the commodification of things and the persistence of markets. While we do not hear capitalists say this very often, market failure is the rule, not the exception. None of the world's top 20 polluting sectors by region would be profitable if forced to pay the full environmental and social costs of production. The United States spends 10 times more on subsidizing the true costs of the oil industry than all federal spending on education. Where is the free market that capitalism is so proud of? It's a myth. If there's no economic agitation, if people stop buying and selling, then there's a crisis. We had 3 major crises just in this century. When money stops moving, the system becomes sick, and a lot of people suffer as a consequence. Capitalism wants to put a price in money on everything: on healthcare, on education, on the river behind your house, on the trees you see in landscapes, on all land, on all minerals, on all plants and animals, on everything that humans need. It does not stop here. The system invents needs and manipulates humans into thinking that whatever is for sale can be a need for somebody. If it cannot convince you, it keeps trying until somebody, somewhere, will happily pull out their wallet. With cryptocurrencies, we thought we invented a different kind of money. We could change the rules of the system. But cryptos are just another nifty product of capitalism. The fanaticism inspired by the Austrian School of Economics, with which the crypto bros attacked the evil central government because it had the evil monopoly on issuing the old-fashioned fiat money, has not led to the emancipation of humans from the oppression of the same government. The freedom promised by Bitcoin and other smart cryptos has not happened. Just like with fiat money, smart computer money still maintained a rich elite, still preserved and deepened inequalities. Money is corrupt regardless how it's made or for what purpose, Because money exists in a corrupt system. The only way to truly escape the system would be to relate to each other in a moneyless economy, as utopic as that sounds. Then we have the mountains of debt that keep going up. Historical records of government debt, credit card debt, household debt, foreign debt, all denominated in a very small bucket of currencies. The size of that bucket is in itself a major issue. These debts are a huge web of promises that need to be kept in the future. Debts are like a time machine that capitalism uses to reach into the future, take resources from there so it can exploit them in the present. Consume now, pay later. You cannot escape this obligation. The can is kicked further down the road to build an illusion in the present. Capitalism sells the story of freedom in a package wrapped in debt, which is by definition an obligation, a shackle on freedom. Forget the shackles, they are an illusion. Consume now, be happy now, says the capitalist. Last but not least, we have the financial engineers that use money itself to extract value from the economy in the form of transaction costs, through monopoly power, and high charges relative to managing risk. They claim they provide a service for moving money around, but in reality, making society too financial was allowed by capitalism because the democratic checks and balances on power stopped working in the last 40 years. Bankers and financiers engineered money not to make people more prosperous, as they should have done according to the traditional understanding of what a banker was supposed to do, but to boost their profits and minimize the risk of doing business. As a result, they ruined the lives of millions of people in their quest to make more money from nothing, just like the government they hate so much. They are all connected: needs, progress, money. The poly-crisis of our civilization does not happen in a vacuum. It happens on this tiny planet that has an atmosphere, biosphere, oceans, minerals, ecosystems. It has experienced trauma in the past and exists in a fragile balance in the present. Today, in the Anthropocene, we have the power to wipe out all life on the planet. We could do it in minutes if a dozen powerful humans pressed their respective nuclear buttons. We have seen already how we transgressed the planetary boundaries in our quest to quench our fake needs. Our economic system grossly misunderstands what the planet can provide. We only need to look at the 2023 IPCC report to see how the risk of species losses increases with higher average temperatures. At 2 degrees warming, we are looking at 40% extinction of species. At 4 degrees, in some regions, all life will be wiped. Okay, if some humans don't care about this enough, how about food production? The yield of crops and fisheries decreases as the planet gets hotter. Will we then all eat hamburgers made in the lab and plastic potatoes? Capitalism also doesn't listen when it comes to GHG emissions. On one hand, the harsh reality is that we need fossil fuels for fertilizers and to heat our homes. On the other hand, burning fossil fuels is killing our crops and burning our forests. The system refuses to look at alternatives to this impossible dilemma. Do we have enough materials to phase out fossil fuels? The total electrical power production in 2018 was about 26,000 terawatt hours. In order to completely phase out fossil fuels, we need an extra annual capacity of 37,000 TWh to replace oil, gas, and coal and to maintain our current growth and desires. You notice I did not say needs. The electrical grid will need to be expanded. Storage has to be built with enough energy buffer. Do we have enough metal to build all this new infrastructure? We need 305 million tons of aluminum to produce 1 generation of technology units to phase out fossil fuels. We produce 63 million per year. We need 4.7 billion tons of copper We produce 24 million tons per year. There are less than 1 billion tons of reported reserves of copper. Can we maintain our level of consumption and completely phase out fossil fuels? Absolutely not. Then we see the techno-optimists, the eco-modernists, the green growthers, who say that we can use the tools of capitalism to innovate our way out of this mess. This remains a far-fetched promise. BECCS, cold fusion reactors, electric cars, you name it. These promises are not honest when it comes to the capacity of Earth to provide resources. These promises do not consider regeneration of resources, loss of energy to dissipation, the need to preserve the biosphere. All capitalist techno-promises operate under the assumption that needs will continue to grow and therefore the economy will have to grow. Capitalism is blind to planetary boundaries. Let us just assume we can invent some magic tools that use less resources, completely satisfy our desires, do not destroy the environment, and generate almost no waste. How about fully recyclable Teslas? Battery, metal, glass, plastic, rubber, all of it. Fully recyclable smartphones, gadgets, TVs, refrigerators, air conditioning units, clothes, buildings, farming equipment, nuclear waste, single-use anything. Is a circular economy possible like this report suggests? Is green growth even possible? Can we disconnect, decouple economic growth from its ecological footprint? Unfortunately for us, the answer to all these is no, in various degrees, but still no. Social critic Ivan Illich wrote in 1973 that the crisis can be solved only if we learn to invert the present deep structure of tools. If we give people tools that guarantee their right to work with high, independent efficiency, thus simultaneously eliminating the need for either slaves or masters and enhancing each person's range of freedom. Convivial tools are those which give each person who uses them the greatest opportunity to enrich the environment with the fruits of his or her vision. Industrial tools deny this possibility to those who use them, and they allow their designers to determine the meaning and expectations of others. Most tools today cannot be used in a convivial fashion. It is undeniable that all IoT gadgets, all the AIs, no matter how smart, the metaverses, have not done much to bring us closer, to allow more love and understanding between humans. Algorithms have been put to work to harvest even more data from us, turning humans into products that the owners of the algorithm, all proud capitalists, are selling to advertisers and whoever is willing to buy. Humans have become the merchandise on the so-called market of information. We were also told that we are gaining convenience, comfort, and satisfaction if we used all these tools as much as possible. We seem to enjoy our tablets and streaming platforms, but we are also stuck on them. We depend on them in our quest for meaning. Relationships of dependence chip away at our freedom and self-determination. Even if we accepted that there's no real free will, that we are all victims of our biology and environment, having tools that disconnect us further from ourselves and from each other adds stress and more chains instead of empowering us to grow from within. How can we ensure proper healthcare for all humans? How can we reclaim our soil from industrial agriculture? How can we help all humans have air conditioning and refrigeration? How can we help all humans get around without needing a personal car? How can we craft free, global access to information without flooding the market with stupid gadgets that last 3 years? Capitalism is not great at answering these questions. Why do we have all these problems? Capitalism is fundamentally an anti-democratic economic system. The decisions about what to produce for consumption are made by the elite of capital-owning humans. Workers and consumers are never asked what kind of cars, smartphones, clothes, food, housing they need. They are told what they must need, what they must buy, how much they must pay, how much they must work to earn that money to pay for everything. As I have introduced in an earlier video, the link between ownership power and capital is the fundamental doctrine of capitalism. This economic system cannot exist if it does not seek profit, if it does not seek to grow in perpetuity. This catastrophic flaw is the cause of environmental, social, and political collapse of civilization. The system needs to change to save all life on Earth. If we broke the link between property, power, and capital to allow humans to be fully in charge of their existence, we will effectively move beyond capitalism. It may be as easy as crafting a new legal doctrine where the size of property is in no way linked to how many votes a person has in a business. Or it may be as hard as building a wide social movement on a culture of voluntary simplicity, where humans understand that they can be satisfied and live with a small ecological footprint at the same time. Okay, so what is the bottom line here? We ditch capitalism and adopt what? Soviet-style socialism, a Chinese mix of communist capitalism? Go back to feudalism? Become all Amish? No, these are not the alternatives. There are other ways to organize the economy. Hit the subscribe button to get a glimpse of how we can build a much better system than capitalism. Thank you for watching.